Hello, hello, hey, hello, hey there, it's me, Shania, and I'm back again with another video.
Shania.
If you're new to this channel, my name is Shania, and on this channel I have loads of sewing tutorials. Some of the tutorials are from things that I've made from scratch, from fabric to finish, and some of the tutorials are of garments that I've upcycled and refashioned. So check it out. I'm super excited about this tutorial because I know you guys have been waiting for a while, but finally I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cute, beautiful, backless, cropped, ruffle drawstring top. I'm going to be showing you how to make her today. So the secret to wearing this top without a bra is this super duper amazing instant breast lift tape. It comes in a roll like this. It also comes with like nipple patches that you can put on your nipple to protect it. This video is not sponsored. I wish it was, but it's not. But you should definitely check it out because you literally can wear anything that's backless or low cut with this tape, and it doesn't hurt to like take it off or anything like that. It's sweat proof. It's hot in New York City, and I've been wearing it like all day, and the support is a real thing. So yeah, you should definitely invest in this if you want to wear some backless tops this summer. The link for this is down below in the description. So yeah, there are 3 basic steps in order to make her, and the basic steps are 1, the body, 2, the casing, and 3, the drawstring. So let's get into it. So let's start with the body of the top. Fun fact, I'm using a pillowcase, but you can use like regular fabric if you prefer. But using a pillowcase kind of gives me a head start in terms of the seams. So now you want to make a rectangle pattern, and the width of your rectangle should be your bust measurement divided by 2 plus 6, and the length should be the top of your bra cup to however long you want your top to be. So I need to add just seam allowance on one side and at the top, and the reason why is because there's already seam allowance on the other side and the bottom since I'm using a pillowcase. If you're not using a pillowcase, you'll need to add seam allowance all around your pattern. And then I am pinning along those open areas where the seam allowance is. So I didn't draw a seam allowance line because I'm going to be using a fancy presser foot ruler that will kind of mark out the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And before I do that, I just want to serge the edge. So here is what I'm talking about, that presser foot that will help me to measure the seam allowance. If you don't have one of these, you can just draw out your 1/2 inch seam allowance before you go to stitch. So once I've done that, this is what the edge looks like. Now I'm going to mark 1 inch down from that seam allowance line, and then from that mark I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch down. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm starting to prep the opening for my casings. Then from the seam allowance line at the bottom, you want to measure and mark 1.5 inches up from that seam allowance line, and then from that mark you want to measure a 1/2 inch up from that line and make a mark. And you're just going to repeat these same steps on the same side. So you should have a total of 8 marks, something like this. And then you are basically going to take your seam ripper or your seam cutter, and you're going to open the seams along those 2 marks, so in between those 2 marks. And you're just going to repeat that for all of those double marks. So it should look something like this. And again, the purpose of this is to just open up the side so that you'll be able to pass your drawstring through your top. You want to use the open area of the rectangle to just stick your hand in and turn the rectangle so that it's right side facing out. And then once you've done that, it should look something like this. And then the next step is to close up the rectangle. So And I just wanted to show you guys that I'm able to stick a pencil through those open areas that we just opened the seam allowance for. Anyhow, so to close up the rectangle, you're just going to fold the two open edges inwards. You'll see that it will naturally want to fold on its own, and you're going to pin it down, and then you're just going to do a top stitch straight down. I'm measuring 2 inches from the bottom of the rectangle and placing a pin. And then above that pin, I'm measuring a 1/2 inch up and placing another pin. And this is where the opening of my drawstring casing will be. I'll know not to stitch in that area because that's where the drawstring will go. Okay, so now I want to work on the casing for this top. So in order to do that, we are going to once again measure 2 inches from the bottom, place a pin, and then measure a 1/2 inch above that pin and place another pin, and repeat the same thing on the other side. So that we've basically done this already. The reason why we're doing it again is now because we need to sew the stitches for our casing. So I'm just taking masking tape and connecting it from one pin to the other pin on the other side, and I'm going to stitch along the edge where the masking tape is. And for now, I'm just lining up my top pins. So I'm measuring 1 inch down from the top, placing a pin, a 1/2 inch down from that pin, and placing another pin, and repeating the same thing on the other side. So let's start by just sewing along this edge here where the masking tape is, and just a simple straight stitch is all we need. So take your time and go slow. You don't want to sew on the tape. You want to sew directly underneath the tape. And here you can see I have the opening, and when I take off the tape, you can see that I now have my 2 rows of stitching, which is basically the casing for the drawstring. So I'm going to take that same tape and I'm going to place it right along the pins that I placed at the top of the rectangle, and just want to make sure that it is flat and smooth. And I'm going to line up the edge of the tape to the pins, and I'm just going to do 2 straight stitch rows like so. And when I'm done, I take off the tape and it looks something like this. Sorry, it's a little blurry, but now you see I have 2 casing channels, one at the top and one at the bottom, and my drawstring is going to go straight through these casings. So if you don't want to make casings in this way, you can just attach elastic to have the same effect, and you would just measure from the top of your rectangle and decide where you want to place your elastic, and then you would attach drawstrings to the sides for the straps and then to the bottom for the tie back effect. So yeah, that's another option. So now I'm taking my leftover fabric from my pillowcase, and I'm just cutting off that seam so that I can have one square of fabric like so, and I'm going to make the drawstring. So now that I have my bias strips, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect them all so that I have one long drawstring. So for a full tutorial on how I made these bias strips and what exactly is a bias strip and how it's different from just a regular strip of fabric, definitely check out my bias tape tutorial, and the link for it is down below in the description box. So in order to connect them, you want to make sure that the right side of one piece is facing up, and then you want to measure about a 1/2 inch from the edge, and you want to place another strip a 1/2 inch in from that edge, and make sure that the right sides of both strips are facing, and you're going to pin it down. And you want to make sure that you're careful about where you pin it, because you're going to need to sew a slanted line, and you don't want your pin to intercept with that stitching. So it should look something like this after you've finished sewing, and once you turn it right sides up, you'll see that it'll look like one continuous line. So you want to continue pairing the other pieces of the strips together to create one long flowing line. So again, you always want to make sure that your strips are facing up before you start to match the pieces together, and you always want to leave about a 1/2 inch sticking out from the edge. Pin it down and then do a diagonal stitch like so, and you want to just continue this until you have connected all of your strips. So once you've finished connecting all of your strips to form one long strip like this, you'll notice that you have like little pieces sticking out from the edge. So you just can take your ruler and kind of mark off a straight line and then cut off those protruding edges. You could either use the scissors or you could use a rotary cutter the way that I've used. Then to finalize my drawstring, I'm going to use a bias tape maker kit thingamajig that I got from Amazon. The link for this is down in the description box. But this just makes it super easy. You just take your strip of fabric and you put it inside of the maker and you just pull it through, and then you hold on to the tape maker and you just keep pulling it while you iron the strip flat. If you don't have this kit, you can just follow this demonstration using your fabric. So you're just going to fold one end of the fabric to the center, fold the other end of the fabric to the center, and then you're going to fold the fabric in half again, and then you're going to stitch along the edge to keep the fabric closed. So once I take my strips out of the bias tape maker, they look something like this. So I just need to fold it in half and then stitch along the edge so that it stays closed, and then I will be finished. So I'm just using this simple straight stitch with these machine settings here on the screen. And yeah, so once I'm done with that, the string is ready. So now I'm taking a safety pin and I am attaching it to one end of the string. Ideally you want to finish your ends because otherwise it becomes bulky. Once I have put the safety pin on one end of the string, I'm just threading it through the casing, and then I am bringing it through the second row of the casing. And so you'll see that you'll start to have like a loop on one side, but you just want to keep pulling your string all the way through so that you can do another round of dragging the drawstring through the casing. So when you're done, it will look something like this, and you can just kind of try it on and decide how much string you need for your arms and how much you want for your back, and then you can just cut off the excess straps or string. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about this tutorial, if anything was confusing, or you just want to show some love, be sure to leave me a comment down below. If you liked this video, tickle that like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. And also remember that sharing is caring, so if you want to share this video on your Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, wherever you show up in this virtual world, sharing is amazing. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.